sir. Reading you loud and clear. Clear. The clock has started.
The clock has started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Let's analyze some more movies. Okay. So I recently was looking up the word nerd because before it was simp and thirsty and pick me, I think nerd was kind of, even though nerd isn't necessarily one of those, because being a simp and being a nerd is not the same thing. So if you go back to the, some of you can think about this, some of you can't. If you go back to some of the sitcoms in the 80s and the 90s, I think Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of them. You had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then you also had something like Saved by the Bell, Blossom, Family Matters, Step by Step, and I'm just trying to think of some, and Full House, and there's others of them. So in those movies, in those TV shows, and the movies that came out in the 80s and the 90s as well, it's like what was it? Clueless was one of them. That they showed different types of characters, right? They showed the nerd, and I've looked up, and the nerd is like recent. It's like 1970s, 1960s. You won't find the word nerd used in any black and white movies because it's a fairly recent term that we use. When nerds was first used, it did not refer to a person who was intelligent and unattractive, as its last evolvement use. So nerds was actually more like simps today. Nerds when it was first used was more like simps, which would include what nerds mean today, which is usually a smart person who's unattractive and not very exciting outside of their field of work. Okay. And so because you had those characters, like you had the cool guy or the fool, and then you had the popular girl, and then you had what else was it? The nerd. And so Saved by the Bell is a good one because you had Screech, who was the nerd, and then you had who was it? Kelly, who was like the cheerleader, and then you also had another girl who was the black girl who was the cheerleader, and then Zach Morris was the cool guy, and then Screech, I already said Screech was the nerd, and then you had another guy who was a jock, and he was a pretty cool guy as well. But you didn't have like simps. I think the other movie, 16 Candles, it always showed you were either cool or you were a nerd. There wasn't this in between. But a simp is kind of in between because he's not necessarily nerdy. He doesn't necessarily have to be intelligent, but he's not cool. He doesn't have swag. And so that's where these simps and blue pill guys and who else? And thirsty guys lie. They may not necessarily be Steve Urkel or Screech from Saved by the Bell, smart, unattractive nerds, but they are, how'd you say, not attractive to most women because they're not alpha males. So it's kind of like saying you're in this no man's zone, you're in this dead zone. You're not super smart and you're not super hot. So what are you? And see, this is the difference between men and women. A woman can be not super smart. She can be average smart and average looks, and she still gets guys chasing her. But because of what is Instagram and a little bit of Facebook and online dating, a guy can not be super smart and not be super hard. He can be average, and he doesn't get anything. and we might even go over one of those, and I'll probably bring up that website.